What is going down, faithful? We are going to look at the San Francisco 49ers offensive line versus the Chicago Bears this past Sunday. Obviously, the outcome of the game resulted in a loss for the 49ers, but we're going to take a look a little bit deeper into the offensive line, see how they performed, and see if there are any cause for concerns or if it was just a rough week one. Let's start with this outside run to Deebo Samuel. You're going to have Mike McGlinchey, Charlie Warner, and Jawan Jennings out in front. I really like this play by Mike McGlinchey, who's going to get to the second level. His goal is to cut off the angle to Roquan Smith. He does a really good job of creating contact and maintaining contact on an extremely slippery linebacker. And the best part is he's able to finish Roquan Smith right onto his back with a beautiful pancake, and he's able to complete the block. Charlie Warner is able to get to second level as well. He's going to get his hat on Eddie Jackson. Jawan Jennings kind of slides off his block a little bit, but ultimately it lands with a good gain for the 49ers. Basically, what you have on the backside of the run is everyone's just going to make sure they seal and no one gets over the top. Spencer Burford gets a reach block here, make sure that 93 isn't going to flow over, and you can see the same across with everyone else. But not bad overall to start off this particular game. As we continue forward, we're going to get a pretty solid pass blocking rep from the offensive line up front. We're going to get into it and break it down piece by piece. You're going to get a really nice play action look from the 49ers and Trey Lance up front. They run this particular play a lot, and it's typically going to look like a run where they're going to pull Charlie Warner across the formation to kick out. You have everyone executing run action up front, and then you get Trey Lance completing a pass to Brandon Ayuk. But let's take a look from left to right. You're going to get Mike McGlinchey and Spencer Burford executing as if they were to be running run action up front. They get a little double, get a piece. I really like what Jake Brendel at center is able to do here. You get 93 head up on Aaron Banks shooting into the A gap. And so what Brendel does, he's able to take this leverage and ride 93 out using his own momentum against him. You see a crucial element here is getting that right hand on that hip that allows him to really use his momentum against him and push him upfield. It's a really good job by Brendel to get 93 out of there and build a pocket around Trey Lance. You see, same thing kind of happens on the opposite side with Aaron Banks. He's going to move to his left, pick up Robert Quinn, and allow time for Trey Lance to get the ball out. This is going to be a really good run play by the San Francisco 49ers, and you're going to get some good run blocking up front by Mike McGlinchey and Spencer Burford. They do a phenomenal job of doubling to backer. You can see Spencer Burford engages, instantly gets his eyes on the middle linebacker, and the second that Mike McGlinchey gets on to 93, Burford peels, and you can even see 93 is trying to stop Burford from doing that. But Burford's able to fight through, get onto Roquan Smith, and actually create some pretty solid push. Overall, Mike McGlinchey, Spencer Burford completely washed down the defensive tackle and linebacker and creates a really nice hole for Elijah Mitchell. You're going to get Tyler Kroft kicking out here on 99. Does a phenomenal job getting him on the ground. You get a nice block from Jake Brendel as well, ensuring no interior pressure by being able to wall off number 90. Aaron Banks gets his hat on 53, and Trent Williams does what he needs to do with 91, and Elijah Mitchell does the rest. Good block, too, by Ray Mcleod. I know we're looking at the offensive line, but Ray McLeod will show up a couple times on tape with his ability to block. It's one of the things that I was really impressed with. Here you're going to get an outside pitch out of the I formation. Uh, Gonna get it to Debo Samuel. He's gonna get out in space, and if he could stay on his feet, might have been able to get a little bit more yards. You could see he was kind of upset for getting tripped up. He had a chance to score on that particular play, but let's break it down a little bit more. Starting with Charlie Warner and Mike McGlinchey, you want to see Charlie Warner take more of an outside step. Although you want to allow Mike McGlinchey to take over this block, you don't want to impede him from taking over this block. And as you can see, by Charlie Warner going back into 99, he actually trips up Mike McGlinchey, who was on pace to reach block this. And you can see Mike kind of stumbles as a result. I think if Charlie Warner just punches his left hand, ensures that 99 isn't going anywhere, Mike McGlinchey would have reached block and been able to get his head around and hips around. And then that would have gotten Charlie Warner out to 58 to be able to get a better angle and kind of seal this right here. You get a really nice block from Brandon Ayuk, and then you get a kick out from Kyle Juszczyk on 6. So if Charlie can be a little bit better and more efficient at getting this taken care of, I think he aids Mike McGlinchey and is also able to seal off Roquan Smith. And if that is the case, we are probably looking at potential 6 points from Debo Samuel here. Again, missing George Kittle. He's going to be a guy that's going to most likely get to Roquan Smith on this particular play. Still a good effort by Warner, but could have been better here. You also get a really good reach block from Spencer Burford. Does a good job of sealing. You can see 93 goes absolutely nowhere. Burford absolutely controls him. But overall, decent blocking up front, but you can see how it could have been even better. So this particular play by Mike McGlinchey was just a ill-advised sack given up on a 3rd and 3. Obviously, pushed the 49ers out of field goal range and was not the best play by anyone's standards. But let's take a look and see what happened here to see why that maybe this occurred. You can see you have Dominique Rogers, who's a rookie 5th-round pick. He's a really talented, converted wide receiver to defensive end, so he's very skilled athletically, and you can already see he's pretty talented. But because he's in a wide 6 technique, Mike McGlinchey is going to make sure that he's not going to get beat to the outside. So he gets out to his spot and then chops it down. And you can see Dominique does a really good job of kind of stemming upfield, planting, swipe, and then is able to get right by Mike. At a certain point, you kind of got to tip your cap to the defensive end on this play, who made a really good move. Again, one of the hardest things for offensive linemen is when you get hands taken away. Not only does his hands get taken away, it kind of shifts his leverage to the outside, which makes it really difficult to recover. But thankfully, this was really the only egregious play that Mike McGlinchey gave up on the day. As you can see, he knew it was beat right away. You can see he goes to plant with that outside foot, isn't able to really create much drive off of it because his hands are getting swiped and it's shoving his shoulders the opposite direction. Gives up the sack and unfortunately moves them out of field goal range. I've also seen a lot made of McGlinchey not picking up Trey Lance or Trent Williams. But again, if you look at the situation, the way Trey falls, he kind of falls getting up in a sense. So, yeah, I get it. Offensive linemen are always going to be there to pick up your quarterback. But based on this particular angle, not sure what the expectation is to drag Trey Lance up from his shoulder pads. I think if he was on his back and had his hand up, maybe we're having a conversation then. So what I think happens here is that as a result of Aaron Banks riding out the defensive lineman, you're going to get Trey Lance get a little jumpy, You see him jump up into the pocket. But unfortunately, based on the leverage of Trent Williams and the angle that he's at, this actually puts Robert Quinn on the same depth as Trey Lance. So as a result, he's able to just to cut off his angle and get to the quarterback because of the position of Trent Williams. As you can see, Trey Lance kind of sees that, kind of hops back, kind of hops up and throws it, and kind of throws an inaccurate pass as a result. This to me just feels like, getting more reps, getting a better feel inside the pocket, uh, and understanding where your pressure is coming from and ensuring your feet are set and getting a good ball out. I think this is something that's easily correctable on Lance's standards. I think the 49ers offensive line did a decent job considering the circumstances. And this could have been a pass that was completed. Um, but again, not too bad by anyone's standards. So this is a very interesting play because it really does look like a run pass option. If you look at Brandon Ayuk down at the bottom of the screen and you look at the action up front from the offensive line, it looks like they're selling a 100% of the way wide receivers screen to the outside. And you can tell by the way they're running that that's what they believe it's going to be. But because it's a run pass option, Trey Lance actually hands the ball off to Debo Samuel. Basically, you have two blockers with Elijah Mitchell and Ray McLeod, and you're going to get Mike McGlinchey out in space. So Trey must have liked the numbers that he saw here because the defensive end is going to get held by the zone read action, which is going to give Debo the time to get out in space. And then it becomes a one-on-one with Eddie Jackson, and we see the result. Debo Samuel absolutely clobbers Eddie Jackson as he falls forward into the end zone. But you can also see it looks like it would have been a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk if he would have opted to go that way. He had positive blockers. Looks like everyone was in position to make it work, but they opted to go for the run to Debo Samuel. You can even see Brandon Ayuk knew what opportunity he had in front of him. You can see by the way he was kind of jumping up when he saw Trey Lance decided to hand off the ball to Debo Samuel. Thankfully, it was a score up front, but that's why when you look at the offensive line, you have Trent from basically Burford all going one direction, and you have Mike McGlinchey going the opposite. So that's an interesting wrinkle that turned into 6 points for the San Francisco 49ers. So here we have more of a power running concept with Debo Samuel in the backfield that turns into a really positive gain. This all starts up front and is definitely going to hinge on the type of block that Spencer Burford gets. He does a really good job of reacting to Robert Quinn coming flat down the line of scrimmage. Typically, as a puller, you want to kick out, but when they crash down like this and they stay flat to the line of scrimmage, you want to roll this block. So you can see how Spencer gets his helmet on the outside and rolls his hips around and is able to use and continue to push Robert Quinn to the inside. So this actually worked to their benefit, and Spencer Burford did a good job of changing his blocking relation based on the alignment of the defensive tackle. Then you're going to get a really good block and seal from Jawan Jennings. You're going to get Tyler Croft, who goes around Quinn and is able to get to Roquan Smith and seal him off. And then everyone does a good job from Trent Williams blocking down. You're going to get Brendel blocking down. You're going to get Aaron Banks getting to second level. So overall, really good job by everyone up front doing their job based on how it's shown and what the defense gives to them. And as a result, Debo Samuel does the rest. But good job by Spencer Burford right here. It's really, really good rep. Here we're going to get a nice pass blocking rep. The Bears are only going to bring 4, but they're going to run a little stunt, a little game on the right side, and you're going to see Mike McGlinchey and Spencer Burford do a really good job of picking this up. As you can see, Mike McGlinchey is keyed on the defensive end. Tyler Croft gives him a nice little chip, but it actually kind of puts him on his track for looping around. But Spencer Burford heads up play, staying on 93, eyes up, peels off, gets the looper. Mike McGlinchey takes over the block on number 93. This is a really good pass off on a stunt from these two guys up front. You're going to have basically Brendel, Banks, and Williams sliding protection to the left, and they also do a good job. No stunt on this particular side, but you get Trent Williams riding out Robert Quinn, and you get Brendel doing a good job, and Banks looking for work. So this is a really good rep by the guys up front. On this particular pass play, it's going to be a deep pass to Jawan Jennings, but you're going to get a really nice pass off on the left side this time between Trent Williams and Aaron Banks. You see that Quinn is going to loop around, but the boys are ready to pick it up. You can see that Aaron Banks has got his eyes up, and when Quinn comes to loop around, he's there to pick him up. Trent is able to take on the defensive tackle and really allows Trey Lance to sit back in the pocket and step into this throw and create and complete a really nice pass. You can see their sliding protection to the right with Brendel, Burford, and McGlinchey. The guys do the job on their side, and you get a positive play as a result. So this particular play is going to be an example of the Bears kind of making adjustments and understanding what the 49ers are going to throw at them. As you can see, they're heavy set left. You've got two tight ends. You've got Kyle Juszczyk. Clearly looks like it's going to be a run to the left, but as you can see, it's one of these kind of fullback counter plays where they bring Juice across the formation, and you can see the Bears were not fooled by this. Normally, this action is going to force the Bears linebackers to flow outside, but they weren't. They were keyed on Kyle, and once Kyle cut across, you can see how many blue hats were going to the football. For the most part, they did the best they could up front, but as you can see, the flow of the linebackers puts Mike McGlinchey in a bad spot because Mike's following his track as he should, but they didn't bite. Typically, this will suck the linebackers up, and they did not. So it just was an unfortunate play from the jump because the Bears knew what was coming. You get a really good block and kick out from Kyle Juszczyk. You get a nice crackdown block from Brandon Ayuk, but it's not enough. They were ready for it. You got blue hats all over the place. They did not bite on it. So that's why this play didn't work. This was more of an adjustment from the defensive coordinator than anything else. So on this play, we get some vintage Trent Williams. When he's blocking down, he's going to get the little club snatch that gets number 96 right onto the ground. He does his job here by neutralizing that threat. Next in line would be Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks is on his track, but I think Aaron Banks is a little too aggressive in overextending, and as a result, he got Roquan Smith to just go right underneath and allow Aaron Banks to flow through. This is correctable. Aaron Banks is going to have to kind of slow this down a little bit, especially if he keeps seeing the trend that linebackers are just trying to go underneath him, and as a result, making plays. You got to make sure the underneath is taken care of in this particular type of run. If anything, you'd rather him flow over the top and use his momentum to continue to drive him out. Um, but you can see he goes too far, and Roquan just goes underneath, makes a play on a potential touchdown run. Spencer Burford and Jake Brendel do a pretty solid job of what they need to do. Brendel is going to block down, wall off 90. Jeff Wilson makes a good cut to kind of get inside that off Brendel's hip. Burford's able to get to the second level, do a good job of really neutralizing the linebacker. And you're also going to get Mike McGlinchey head up on 99 and just wall him off. So everyone does their job for the most part, does pretty solid. Kyle Juszczyk sneaks through, is able to get this block here, which helps create the running lane. But if Banks can get this block, that might be the difference in six. He got beat on another play just like this in the game. So it is definitely something that is showing as a trend that when he's getting to second level, needs to be a little bit more under control just to ensure that he's actually getting his hat on a blue shirt and getting the block. If he does that, we might be talking about a touchdown right here. This play is going to turn out to be a sack for the San Francisco 49ers. It just looks like the Chicago Bears did a really good job of taking away Trey Lance's primary receivers on the play. You can see the protection up front is actually pretty solid. Definitely gets more than 3 seconds to throw the ball, which is within the timing of the play structure. But unfortunately, the Bears did a really good job in coverage, taking away all of Trey Lance's options. So as a result, this basically was a result of good coverage on the back end. Trey Lance tucks the ball and tries to escape and isn't able to get out. And unfortunately, this is a third down that could have been 6, but the 49ers get out of here with a sack. I really like the effort from Burford. Burford understands he's got help to the inside with Brendel. So when he recognizes that no one's looping or coming around, he gets his eyes right back to McGlinchey and is able to provide any support if needed on any inside pressure and just does just that. You're going to get one-on-one situations with Quinn and Banks. Both of them honestly do a pretty solid job of mirroring the defenders and staying in front of them, shooting hands, and keeping their feet and base wide. Um, but again, there was nowhere for Trey Lance to go. He tucks, tries to make something out of nothing, and then ultimately turns into a sack.